Starting September 16th, Mewtwo is coming back into the raid pool, and this time, trainers will have the opportunity to find the shiny, lime green Mewtwo. On top of that, Mewtwo will also have the exclusive signature move, Psystrike. So clearly, players are wondering, Psystrike, is this a better move than Psychic, or is it a worse move than Psychic? Well, in this video, I'm going to break down which move is the better move, and why, and when. So starting out, using the PvE charge move list and sorting it by DPS times DPE, which is damage per second times damage per energy, which is a good general way to find a move's goodness, you can see that Psystrike here is 45.46, which is better than Psychic. It's worse than Future Sight, but right now we don't know if there's any way to get that armor off our Mewtwo's. So Psystrike Mewtwo seems to be where it's at. However, PokeBattler claps back and says that in practice, he's finding that Psychic is outperforming Psystrike by about a second in his simulations. And using Go Battle Sim simulations, GamePress and I are finding that Psystrike is actually like 1 second better. Well, if you look at the DPS times DPE, it looks like Psystrike should be a way better move. So why is there this debacle? Well, the reason behind it is because it has a damage window of 3 seconds. That means that for 3 seconds, your Mewtwo is hanging out there, Psy-striking it up, but the damage won't register until 3 seconds has passed. That means that if Mewtwo is KO'd before getting that move off, well then all that damage potential is wasted and you don't actually land the hit. You guys might remember in the deep past trying to use Solar Beam with Exeggutor. If you got KO'd while you're trying to bring the beam down from the sky, well, the beam doesn't come and you don't get the damage. So in practice, it can be a little bit of a risky move. To illustrate, I'll bring you to Go Battle Sim here. So we're going to be simulating a Machamp raid here with Mewtwo. First with the Psychic, and you can see we're getting this done in about 14.5 seconds. Now, we bring in the Psystrike, the new exclusive move. And we're getting the raid done in 13.62 seconds, right? So as far as our simulations are concerned, 1 second better. Well, if you were to take Psystrike using the customize feature, so go to move, I already have this up from the last time I was doing this. So regular PvE charge moves, and you check out Psystrike here. And you take the damage window, so the active time, and let's say we change it from 3 seconds to 1 second, and we make this attack Psystrike 2, so it doesn't overwrite Psystrike and make me very confused in the future. And we save it, and we give Mewtwo Psystrike 2. So it has the same animation time of about 4 seconds, but the active time, the time the damage actually registers, is much more sooner now. While running that, we can see that Mewtwo is now doing way better than it was before, with 107 seconds. So very significant there. So what this is telling me is that the difference between PokeBattler and Go Battle Sim is when the Mewtwo's are fainting before getting off the Psystrike damage. Salandro says that he does incorporate like a wider range for human error and lag. So if you think about lag and human error, that does technically bump the damage window even further back, and as a result would hurt the move. Here we do things that are more like straightforward, and as a result the damage window is failing less often than not. How it truly is in practice is a bit of a debate, big old question mark, and it could vary from your like service provider to your phone to the time of day. So it's really hard to say which move is clearly significantly better because of this 3 second damage window, but I'd say overall they're about the same and they're not that much worth worrying about. One particular situation where I feel Psystrike could stand out further beyond Psychic is if you were to switch out your Pokemon before you were to faint. To put this in better words, basically you drop your Psystrikes, right? And then when you get to the point in the fight where you're pretty sure that your Mewtwo won't be able to get off another Psystrike before it faints, or it'll be like way too close to even begin to want to deal with, well then you switch out your Mewtwo for another Pokemon, maybe another Psystrike Mewtwo. That way that Mewtwo won't faint mid-Psystrike, and then the fresh Mewtwo you bring in could benefit from the damage, accelerating it to another Psystrike. So that could be a way to do like a special time clear on Machamp. And I'm pretty interested in seeing challenge raiders such as King Ive doing stuff like this and putting Psystrike to the test, seeing if it truly could be used in this way to gain maximum benefit. But aside from the hardcore players of the world, just the general average Joes just hanging out doing their raid battles, I'd say the difference between Psystrike and Psychic isn't anything to get too pent up about. And because the moves are so similar, if you get a Psystrike Mewtwo, you may as well roll a Psystrike Mewtwo because it's just as fine as Psychic and it's exclusive. Now, on the PvP side of the force, so we got the PvP charge move list. Bringing up Psychic here. Psystrike is coming in at 55 energy for 100 damage, which is actually paralleling perfectly to Shadow Ball. So Shadow Ball, but in Psychic form. Is this a move that you want on your PvP Mewtwo's? Well, unfortunately, you can't get Shadow Ball and Psystrike on the same Mewtwo. And in PvP, especially with Giratina ruling the school in the Master League, I'd say you want to have Shadow Ball on your PvP Mewtwo's, not Psystrike. Now, if you had the option of having Psystrike and Shadow Ball, would that be the optimal Mewtwo moveset? Well, that I'm also not quite certain of either. You do want to have a lot of counter coverage when it comes to PvP, and because all the beam attacks like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, they all have the same energy cost now. It's hard to say if it would be more beneficial to have the Psychic flavor with the Ghost flavor, or if you want to flavor it up with an Ice or an Electric type attack for more coverage. But for the time being, that is nothing that we have to worry about because Shadow Ball and Psystrike don't play with each other, and Shadow Ball is the way to go. So Psystrike, not a bad move for PvP, but it's kind of bad because it ain't Shadow Ball. That coverage kind of matters. So there you have it. When it comes to Psystrike on Mewtwo, I'd say for the average general player, it's going to be as good as Psychic, if not maybe a little bit better. Then when it comes to a more hardcore player trying to get special time challenge clears on something like Machamp, I feel like Psystrike might be where it's at if you incorporate some fancy footwork with your switches. Overall, I can't say for certain right now, and when it does come time to get Mewtwo's, I really don't have the resources to power up a bunch of Psystrike ones right away, so I'm going to be relying on players like King Ive to do the work for me, and we'll see what the results of their research is. But for the time being, get hyped for the Shiny Mewtwo, get hyped for the Psystrike, and who knows, maybe before September 16th, Niantic will change the Game Master and buff the move a little bit. I'd say the move doesn't need too much buffing, but anything that can make the damage window come earlier will be a huge benefit for Psystrike, so fingers crossed for that. If you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips.